Our friend, the Flat Rate Master, has set off David Roman yet again. It's terrible. It's the worst. It's awful. David's been complaining about this video for no fewer than 5 days this week, and it's only Tuesday. Let's get started.
Look at what I stopped this thing.
He's going to kill us. We did tell him we're doing this, so it's okay.
Okay, we're going to react to this video.
We're going to react to this video.
Okay.
We're reacting to this video.
That's just where the screen stopped. I didn't put that up there.
I didn't do this. One on purpose.
All right, I'm the Flat Rate Master, and let's talk about, well, some of the backlash shop owners have given me for getting fired. Interesting, situation for me, being publicly fired. I have a somewhat, large community, and, getting fired was a shock for me. It was a shock for the community. And the response I've gotten from some shop owners have been very supportive and, been great. Others,
that was us, by the way. The
immediately go to, what did I do to get fired?
I did send him a message, man. I felt really bad for the guy. That sucked.
Immediately it was, oh, there's a reason you got let go. Yeah, that's not coming out in this video. So if you're here for that, it's not going to be here. The amount of
pause for just a second.
Blame I took.
I did a panel for ASTA in Charlotte, and we had a technician panel and an owner panel, and there were 3 technicians on the panel, and all 3 of them said, I am to the point that I don't get in groups anymore, and I don't talk in groups, because it's always that. Exactly what he's describing. What did you do wrong? You're stupid. You didn't get the trouble codes. You this, you that, right? Like, it is a complete attack. You can't say anything without being attacked. They said that they didn't feel like they could get valid information for that one reason, that it was always something like that. What do you think? Is that what Facebook groups have become?
No, I think those are...
They've always been that way?
No. Yes. People are always like that. So grow up.
Okay.
What do you expect? Did you see one of those posts on Facebook? This guy posted something about something. I don't know. He was complaining about. I'll be honest with you. I didn't read the whole thing. I made it to like the second sentence and realized that he had used 0 punctuation in the entire post. There was this block of text and 0 punctuation. 0. Like not a comma, not a period, not a semicolon, not a colon, like nothing. It was just a blob of text just thrown up into the internet. And here's the thing. So the guy got some backlash a little bit for that. And it was funny. But if you as a tech get onto this group and say, hey, the car's hesitating, what's wrong with it? Don't give your make and model. Yeah, you asked for it. You didn't give your make and model. 100%. You didn't see what testing. You didn't say what testing you've already done. You didn't show your trouble codes. You didn't give enough information. Have I asked for technical help online? Absolutely. But when I go into it, I have exhausted absolutely every path that I have available to me. I've tried everything at this point, and at this, I just need somebody to look at it from an outside perspective and give me back some feedback, or give me some
100%,
feedback,
100%.
so I can go down a different path. They don't look at it that way, and so they walk in. What do you think is going to happen, dude? You're going to get roasted. You're going to get roasted.
There was this dude on ASOG years ago. There were actually 3 of them, and man, sweetheart of human beings, right? Like, wonderful people, nothing wrong with these people. It's just they would post these like 5-page posts, and there was no punctuation. It was just run-on sentence after run-on sentence after run-on sentence, like no spaces, no nothing. And Dutch made me deal with it. I was so offended, right? Because Dutch is mad about it, everybody else is mad about it, but Lucas is going to be the one to send him a message. I think I offered to
use
it, right?
it. Hey,
like a dummy.
Please use punctuation.
Oh, and I was like, hey, some ideas that you can try is maybe spread out the thoughts a little bit. Put a space between some paragraphs so people can understand. Complete a thought.
Dude, it's absolutely free. You when you open up Chrome, go to Grammarly.com
Yep.
and download the little widget, the app.
Dude, you would not
onto
believe
your-
how upset these people got. You would not
I-
believe
yeah,
how
because-
mad these people got. They left the group. They send me hate mail sometimes. They're always sending me messages about how unfair it is. They made these posts about how mean the other staff was. They didn't punctuate them either, and they just made it one long post as well. But I'm just saying, like, they're like, one of them actually came back to me and said, I feel like I have been targeted. And I'm like, man,
You
we're
have
trying
been
to
targeted
help you.
because you don't use punctuation. That's what we're targeting.
Right,
Just
well, that's
run
what I
it
said.
through Grammarly. That's all I'm saying. Just run it through
We're
Grammarly.
trying to help. We're
Yes.
trying
And
to help. We're
and
trying to
here's the
help
thing.
you
If you're a
communicate better.
technician, yes. If you're a technician and you want to ask for help, make sure you have crossed your T's and dotted your I's. And you're
Exhausted your
100%.
options.
Yeah, you have exhausted your options. Then get online and throw something up there, and then see what comes back.
Yeah.
And make sure that you run it through Grammarly so it makes sense and there's punctuation.
Doesn't hurt
and
people's
it's
eyeballs to
clear.
read it.
It doesn't hurt people's eyeballs to read it. Maybe throw a picture or two in there. It always helps. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Was ridiculous. You know, my former boss is well known in the shop management space, and he's got very fervent supporters. And well, they came out, and I don't know what he shared in his groups or anything like that about me.
Did you know the shop owner of his shop?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Well, you do. I have no idea who it is. I don't have a clue.
All I know is some of the responses were horrendous, and it was very much and the response has been, it was 100% my fault, even though they know nothing about what happened. It's all my fault. Regardless of the reason I got fired, I'm still human. I'm still, a person. And rather...
I heard a story one time about how a coaching company recommended that someone be terminated, and that the coach then went and hired the person that was terminated. And the original shop owner was like, what? Like,
Are you
hold up, you
serious?
told us to get rid of him. And they're like, yeah, but he was toxic in your shop. He's not going to be toxic here. Like, dude, like, some of these companies are like cutthroat.
Wow,
Hey, great
dude.
spot to pause it. Why you keep pausing poor Michael in these spots?
I'll edit that out. Don't worry.
What is wrong with you, man?
I'll edit that out.
No, you won't.
Yes, I will. I'm not trying to embarrass the guy. Get out of here.
You can't embarrass this guy. He is legit cool human being. I'm just saying, like, why are you pausing in these really weird spots? I don't know.
horrible comments. I'm used to it, but a lot of other people would take it very,
100%.
very personally. And it shows, unfortunately, the horrible mentality of a lot of shop owners. That's what really shined to me, is it proved to me that we're family. We're family here.
Not just shop owners.
No, you're not.
It was service advisors. It was techs. It was people from all over. And that's one of the things about putting yourself out there like that. There are people who didn't like the guy. And unfortunately, it affects his family too, right? Like, because they eventually see these comments and the things that are said, even if he tries to protect them from them. That sucks.
You think they get on there and read it?
I don't know if they do or not, but I'm just saying, like,
Listen,
as a
I
human
watched
being,
Joe
you
Rogan
should treat
say.
people with.
No, you're right. But I'm just saying, I saw Joe Rogan say, you never read the comments. They're dumpster fire. If you want to feel horrible about yourself or really good, read through the comments and it'll be a roller coaster. But you're right. He's human. Like, have a little respect.
Give the dude a break.
Mm-hmm.
You are a number. If you don't produce the number they want out of you, if you're trying to get them to improve, to make everybody's situation in the shop better, you're the problem, not them. But when it comes
In
down
that type
to
of
it,
shop, yes, he's
they
right.
could care less about you. You are a number. You are there to produce for their enjoyment, for their benefit. You literally are, in those shop owners' minds, you are nothing to them. You are there as a worker bee to work until you are no longer useful. And then they will throw you out of the hive and get a new worker bee. That is their mentality. As a person, that is horrendous. As a business owner, that's a bad idea. Your business is based on the people you employ. So it's really, really important you treat them well.
What do you think?
I think it's hard for you and I to relate to that because we don't run our businesses like that, right? We will sacrifice ourselves for our people. And so it's hard to understand.
Hold on now. That's true of everybody, every shop, every business.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few businesses that will take a paycheck but short the employees.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I mean, they do that because they won't have employees.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there you go. So that's the like bottom rung. Like that's the bare minimum is that you're going to short yourself pay in order to make sure payroll is met. Your employees' pay.
Here's the thing, though, is that there are. We talked about this in a previous video. There are factions of our industry who they teach this. Right? They teach like, hey, that guy's expensive. Hey, that guy's this. Hey, that guy's that. You know, I personally felt like it was likely that he was a liability to the organization based on the YouTube channel, right? He's never shared who his employer was.
So why would it be a liability?
Well, I mean, that particular, some of the companies out there, they know that they don't operate, and I'm not talking about his shop. I'm saying like some coaching companies say, hey, don't let your people make content and things like that, and it's because they know they may not do the most ethical things. They may understand that, hey, we're really pushing the limits on getting those dollars in the shop. And
but nobody is going to post. Now, okay, I can see a no content policy during work hours and about the shop.
Yeah.
Without it running through the shop owner or the marketing department or whatever. So that makes sense. Like some of these techs that put out these TikToks and reels and stuff like that about their dealership.
Yeah.
The girl that put out the video from Toyota, the one she working from Toyota, or the kid that was making the skits about the day in the life of a technician. I could absolutely see a general manager or the business owner of that business with that employee there seeing that as a liability. Yeah, it's like, if you really believe this about our organization, why are you here? You need to go.
Right. Well, flat rate tech podcast, right? He doesn't want anybody to know who he is for that very reason. He's like, if they find out, that's it. I don't have a job, and I may not get a job somewhere else because I've been very vocal about it.
Yeah, he'll get blacklisted. Yep. So I can see the from that aspect that he'd become a liability, but his stuff was fairly benign, and he was just using it as a backdrop to shoot the video. And like he's already in a work mode
and using the experiences of being at the shop and those things to build his content. And you know, man, I really resonate with you know him saying they came out of the woodwork, right? Like I've made comments about certain companies or something like that, and had people like come out of the woodwork over the silly little things, right? And it resonates with me because it was very similar, right? I've seen some of the people he's talking about doing this, do this, right? It's
doing what?
The attacks, right? The way he was attacked.
Yeah, but that comes with the territory. Like people say horrible things to us. People say
I know,
horrible
I
things
understand,
about
but
us.
I'm saying these people that he knew, these people that were in circles that he had previously been in, absolutely turned on him and acted like childish, immature human beings, saying things that you would not say to somebody right in front of your face. Oh, you didn't see him. I understand you didn't see him. They were said, right? Yeah. It was some pretty unbelievable stuff that was absolutely not right.
So I'm going to have to see receipts. I'm going to have to see screenshots or something. I don't know. You're going to assume that people are going to remain in their tribe. So the shop owners are going to side with the shop owners. Technicians are going to side with the technicians. Just the way it is. It's the way it always is. But yeah, you don't even
This was a tribe among tribes, right? This was a tribe.
There's no need for the vitriol, is what I'm saying.
Right.
There's no point for the vitriol.
Of course. Didn't matter. Would have done nobody favors to even bring it up, right? Who cares? Dude's not working there anymore. Go on with your life.
Your business is based on the people you employ. So it's really important. You treat them well.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. He's right. However, he's wrong about the business is built around the people you employ. That is 100% wrong for most businesses. Okay. Most businesses are built around the systems and processes, and then the brand. Mm-hmm. That's it. And so the point for most business owners, for many business owners, I don't even know if it's most. For many business owners, the point is to scale the business, and then make it an asset that can then be sold off or be passed down.
Yeah.
And they become just a shareholder. Okay, the way that works is to build systems and processes that you can then plug in people at a minimum level of what's the word I'm looking for? Help me out here.
Performance? Minimum level of acceptable performance?
Yeah, minimum level except what the word escapes me. Starts with a C. Competency. Minimum level of competency. That's what they're looking for. So they can plug that person in, and that person then becomes replaceable. They're just a cog in the machine. That's how that works. And so they're trying to build a machine, and with replaceable cogs, the people are the cogs, and the machine generates revenue, and then that's it. That's how most businesses. That's how every McDonald's is built. That's how they make money at McDonald's. And the burger guy can be any burger guy or gal. Anybody can run the cash register. Anybody can run the drive-through. And you just need to meet this minimum level of competency, of acceptable performance. And as long as you don't fall below that line, and that job has a certain value to it, and I can't pay you any more than that value. Because once you become more expensive than that value, you're now replaceable with somebody I can plug in there to do it at that price. And that's just the way the economics work.
I pick on Mike Allen all the time, okay? And I'm always telling Mike, I'm like, hey, flat rate is a lazy man's management method, right? And it's really a joke more than it is anything. I'm not picking on the flat rate master or anything like that. It's just that it's easy, right? Because if you have flat rate, then you can set your numbers up and the shop just does what the shop does, and you don't have to manage the numbers because the people aren't getting paid. And if they want a good paycheck, then this is what has to happen. And so, in some ways, it's a lazy person's management strategy. And so I think about the past couple of months, I'm really trying to figure out this retirement picture for myself and long-term wealth generation for my family. And I'm trying to figure out, how do I take care of my team? And often I think to myself, if I hadn't given those big raises, if I hadn't done these other things, I would have the potential to have so much more that I could have had, that I could have started building wealth. I could have been putting it into investment accounts. I could have been doing all this, but that's not right. Like, for me, that's not who I am. I couldn't do that if I tried. Right. I'm more interested in taking care of them. And I know that some of them aren't going to be here 20 years from now. The business is my baby. Yet some people look at this, and instead of, I think about Dutch, and I'm like, this dude is got it measured down to a 1%, 2% margin in places. And he's saying, okay, I want to pay my people really well, and I want to have the latest and greatest tooling, but I also want to build wealth for my family. And the amount of hours, the amount of time and effort that Dutch puts into making the business float this perfect balance nonstop. And sometimes people have to go. And he's like, hey, listen, I'm sorry. I hate this, but financially I have to do this for the business. But to fit all of those pieces in is a lot of work. And so a lot of business owners take the lazy route, and they're like, hey, I'm going to go for a lower competency human being that can do this job so I can make more money in the long run, so I can build wealth without having to put all that super hard work in, right? I don't know that one's right and one's wrong. It's just my personality won't allow it.
I disagree with that. It's not hard work. It doesn't matter which direction you go in. It's always going to be hard work. It's just different type of work.
Yeah.
It's a different type of work. Well, we can get into the flat rate thing here in a second because he's gonna mention something about it. But it's a fundamental misunderstanding. I see this happen all the time with employees. That they think that, the business hinges on me personally, or me, like it's thanks to me that ... insert whatever contrived value you think you're bringing to the table. And the fact of the matter is that if the business is keyed in properly, it doesn't rely on you or anybody at any
even
point
the owner
for any reason, and especially the owner. It cannot rely on the owner. Now, where a lot of businesses end up getting tripped up is that they hinge everything on the owner, and that becomes an ego thing. That's the owner wants to be the man, the guy, the gal,
Daddy
whatever.
syndrome.
Everybody, I don't even know it's that. they want everybody coming to them to make all the decisions, to ask all the questions, and nothing happens without their okay. And that level of control is entirely ego driven. And those businesses, they don't last past the owner. The minute the owner can't be in the business, gets sick, retires, whatever, the business falls apart. It's gone.
I remember Rick White talking about the wagon wheel, and that the hub of the wagon wheel is often the business owner. And so all those spokes are coming at you, and they're all pointing at you, and you're carrying the load for the whole wagon wheel, whereas the processes and the policies and the procedures of the business should be the hub of the wagon wheel, right? Not one person. But our structure of the business itself, the policies of the business should be the hub, and that the business owner is merely a spoke, and like the employees are spokes, and what we do is a spoke, but it's all going to that central hub of policy, process, and procedure.
I get the analogy. I would say that the hub has to be the brand / culture. That needs to be the hub. And then all of the spokes are the policies and procedures. And the only thing that the owner should be doing is setting the direction of the wagon, and that's it.
Yeah.
And without dictating what that brand and that culture is going to be, then you don't have any standard or policies and procedures. Very true. But I see this the mistake made all the time by employees. If the business is not owner-centric, then it's very likely that the business does not necessarily need you.
Yeah.
The business will survive regardless of whether you're there or not.
Absolutely.
Because the business is built around something other than you as an employee. You are part of the equation, yes, but you could also have anybody be part of the equation. The business doesn't hinge on your performance. That's for any business that's not centered around the owner. For businesses that are centered around the owner, you as an employee know that it doesn't hinge on you because the owner is that center hub, like you're saying, and you then become entirely replaceable because the owner just decides one day they don't want to have you there, and you're gone. The owner's the business. And so you need to be very, very aware of where you are and what type of business you're in, especially when you're talking about a small independent repair shop. You're in a small independent repair shop. Identify the type of business that you're in. Identify it. Be 100% sure you know where you're at. because that's going to then dictate how you navigate some of this and some of the stuff that he's talking about here. Because if you're unawares and you've deluded yourself to the point where you think that, oh, the business, I'm super important to the business wouldn't survive without me. You have friends.
Yeah.
We have acquaintances that I guarantee in private conversations have alluded to it, maybe even explicitly said that, oh, I'm so important to the business. If I were to be gone, I don't know what my owner would do. It's like, no, dude, no.
No, exactly.
If that owner is not the one turning the wrenches, then you are part of the equation. And I'm not saying that you're not important. You're part of the equation.
Exactly.
But I guarantee you that the minute the owner no longer wants you there, you're gone. And that business will survive and be just fine.
And beyond that, right? Let's think about this for a minute. If the owner has everything, all of the chips are bet on that business, right? The future of his family's wealth, the college, the college for the kids, the entire future of the family's wealth is built on that business. If you think that he's not going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that it's profitable, to make sure that whatever has to happen, he's not going to let it fail based on one person having to leave.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, exactly. Just imagine that. Imagine. Now, I will say this. There are some businesses, because we talked about that couple in Colorado, super nice people. Their business, they had bought the business as an investment.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So we'll talk about that here in a second, because he'll mention something about that. But they bought the business as an investment, but the way the work was divvied up, too much value was being generated by one particular employee. Now, will the business survive without that one employee? Absolutely. They'll just find somebody else.
Yeah.
Will it suffer by losing that employee? Absolutely as well. And so too much value was being derived by just one particular employee, where they needed to divvy that up a little bit. Yeah. Anyway, let's keep listening.
The more they have input in how the business should be run, obviously it's your business. You can take that how you want. But the fact is that most business owners are so clouded in their own views of things, they can't see the truth. That is why management groups are around. That's why they're a thing. Because most people are blinded by their situation. You know, you can go to a relationship and you realize that you're in an extremely toxic marriage, but because you didn't look at it from the outside, you didn't realize you were in a toxic marriage. Or your business is toxic. Or, you know, you're not making as much money as the shop could. A lot of things like that is why, you know, management groups, training groups are out there, is to improve those businesses. But they also do something I think is horrendous. And that is push profit over the health of your business. Their main goal is
profit is the health of the business. Profit is the health of the business, right? Let's be real about that. They might push profit over people, right? And I think that's what happens a lot. And you know, there were some instances a while back. I'm not going to share who or anything like that, but somebody said, they posted in the group, they said, I am a relationship-based business. I use such and such as a coaching company, and I do this and I do that, but I'm still a relationship-based business. Everything I do is about relationships. And tons of people, and I didn't care. I wasn't in the argument or anything like that. It was just in one of our groups, and tons of people. I'm not talking about one. I'm not talking about two. I'm not talking about five. I'm talking about tons of them, like a list of messages that filled my entire messenger that said, I'm going to tell you right now, that guy's lying or he doesn't know it. And I'm like, okay, why do I care? And so I've talked about this before, the frog and the pot of water, right? The water's cold to begin with. You turn the heat on and the water warms up and the frog stays in the pot because it was cold. Now it got comfortably warm, and then eventually it's boiling and cooking the frog, and the frog just didn't realize it until it was too late. Well, some of this is the same way. Some of these coaching companies teach things that kind of put you in a pot of boiling water. You started out in a cool pot that you were ethically and morally okay with, and it slowly moves to a spot because what's their job as a management coaching company? They're to show you how much profit you're making and show you how valuable their service is. If they reach a point they don't make you money anymore, what are you going to do? You're going to say, I'm out.
I don't need them anymore. And here's the thing, like you can place value, or you can place ethics and morality on there and say one way's wrong, one way's the other. That I don't even want to go down that road.
Yeah, and I'm learning that's not exactly the case, right?
Yeah, that's not even the situation. And I think a lot of people can delude themselves into thinking that they're a relationship-based business. But what they're saying is, I try to build relationships with my customers. It's like, okay, I think everybody tries to build relationships with their customers in a certain way, some more than others, right? Mm-hmm. But do you extend that out all the way? Are you trying to build relationships with your staff?
Yeah.
Well, no. I mean, if I got to fire that person, like, you're not firing your wife necessarily, right? That's different. Like, that's a messy divorce, and that turns into a whole thing. Well, firing an employee is a lot easier. Well, is it? Should it be? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
My point is that there's a marked delineation between them pushing past that boundary, and it's like, oh yeah, I mean, I build relationships with my staff right up until I don't need them anymore, in which case they're gone.
Exactly. Bye.
Okay, so what kind of relationship
Felicia.
did you really build? Yeah. What kind of relationship are you really building there?
Yeah.
You're not building one. A very deep relationship, right? So are you really a relationship business? It should be extend all the way across. It's not even about the customer necessarily. It's about all the relationships you have, the relationships you have with your vendors. How quickly do we fire our vendors, right? That parts store got a little too expensive on their rotors. All of a sudden I drop them because somebody walked in the door and is offering a 20% discount on my rotors. I don't need that vendor anymore. I can get a 20% discount from this second vendor. So I'm going to start buying from the second vendor. What happened to that relationship you had? Doesn't matter. We're here to make money. That's all that matters. And so I think he's 100% wrong there. It is the health of the business is the profit. You don't make any profit, you don't have a business. You have a hobby that is
the
you a lot of
purpose
money.
of the business is to make a profit.
Absolutely. However, I think what he was meaning to say is that there's some businesses that put profit over people, like you just said. And yes, 100% right. There are many businesses, I would say the majority of them, will put profit over people. The minute that you no longer are contributing to that profit, you are now an expense, and you need to be.
You're a liability.
You're a liability. You're no longer an asset. You're a liability. You're no longer generating revenue. You're now costing me money, and just like any other expense. Just like switching that trash companies so you can save $120 a month. You're just on one more number on the P&L. You can be cut.
Yeah.
At the expense of your employees. And unfortunately, at this point, I don't know how I'm going to change my view on this, because that's the reality. Is most of these shop owners that are in these groups have decided that that's the most important thing to them, is a number. And your employees are just worker bees. That's all they are to you. They mean nothing to you. You care less about them. When anything, affects their ability to make you money, chuck them out, throw them out, move on to the next. So it's definitely something that everybody in my audience needs to be very aware of, because you might work for one of those toxic shop owners and not realize it.
I think that there's so many perspectives in this, right? Because you have the shop owner perspective, you have the technician perspective, you have the family perspective, you have the follower perspective of the flat rate mechanic, right? People looking at this from the outside looking in.
Flat rate master, yeah.
And I remember that plane, we're getting ready to go to iScan, the technical conference. I remember plane ride back from the last ITTC. And on the way back, I didn't talk to the guy sitting next to me all the way. And we're getting ready to land in Charlotte, and he looks over at me and he says, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm an automotive shop owner." And he said, "Well, what were you doing in Utah?" And I said, "Well, we went to this conference. We have a podcast. We have a YouTube channel." And he said, "That's really cool." And I said, "What do you do?" He said, "I'm a business coach." I'm like, "Okay, that's cool because I have a business coach. Like, I've hired a business coach." And he said, "Really? Well, what, your auto repair shop?" He said, "I work in the automotive space too." And I said, "Well, who do you coach?" He said, "Oh, Fortune 500 companies and their CEOs." And I'm like, "Oh." And his name was Dave Garrison Growth. He's got this white paper. It's this really cool white paper. It's up on his website. Go check it out. And he talks about something, and I said, "Well, these big companies, they have like coaching internally for their people and their executives." And he said, "Yeah," but he said, "Here's the thing," is he said, these big CEOs, they become so focused on a KPI, they become so focused on a number, they become so focused on what it is that they're trying to achieve that they forget why they're trying to achieve it." I thought, wow, that's pretty powerful. He said, "Yeah." He said, "So they forget about the people in their organization. They forget about the fundamentals of their organization. And it's my job to make sure they're grounded. It's my job to make sure I paint a picture for them that helps them accomplish the things in the way that they wanted to accomplish them." And I just thought that was so powerful. And, it's like we were talking just a few minutes ago. It's so easy to become so focused on what somebody's told you and so focused on this is what your percentage needs to be. For the longest time, I was focused on that net 20 or net 25. And then Dutch is like, "Hey, but like, what if you wanted to pay your people more? You wanted better tools. Like, you might cut into that. You can't just say net 25 is the golden rule. Like, think about this for a minute." And it makes a lot of sense.
Yes. We had a YouTube comment on one of our videos or one of the podcasts, and the guy was asking about the type of shop that you should walk into or try to go work at.
Okay.
You need to make the decision what type of shop you want to work in. I think there's a lot of people that want to be a number. They don't want to be involved in the business. They don't want to be involved in any decisions. They want to show up for a paycheck. Mm-hmm. They might even be flat rate. We've gotten those comments too on some of our videos. They think that me asking about their personal finances was going too far. Me asking about marriages was going too far. They're like, "Don't ask me about my personal business." Your personal life spills over into the business.
No matter
for some
what
people,
you do,
they can
no matter how hardcore you are.
Well, some people can compartmentalize extremely well. Some people, but I don't think that's most. And I think they just want to walk in. They just want to be a cog in the machine. They want to get their paycheck and they want to go the hell home. And they don't want to care about anything that's happening within the business.
Yeah.
And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're that type of person, you should seek out a shop that looks at profit over people. Because that shop, that business, as long as you're producing and able to produce, is going to pay you more than anybody else.
Yeah, 100%.
Because they're going to see you as a top performer, top producer, and they're going to know that, hey, if I keep feeding into that machine, more money keeps coming out exponentially at a higher and higher rates, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're going to keep feeding into that machine. And so that means more money for you, more benefits for you. But the minute that you stop being that producer, you're now expendable. Out. Yeah, that's the that's the catch-22, right? That's the double-edged sword. You can be just a cog, but you become expendable very quickly.
Yep.
You nailed it on the head when you said, "Why am I even doing net 25? Like, what's the point of it? Why am I even driving or pushing for this particular number?" Unfortunately, I don't think a lot of business owners know the answer to those questions. There was one comment I was reading. The guy goes, "Man, I was dead set on making $1 million a year. I wanted to hit that top line revenue number, needed to be $1 million a year." Mm-hmm. But then I got to that number and I went, what the hell am I even doing? What was the point? Yeah. Like, who cares? And that motivation, the why of what you're doing, needs to be the very first question you ask when you walk into a shop.
Yeah.
And it needs to be a match for your personality.
100%.
A lot of people might think, "Oh, I'd love to ... and then insert whatever they think they'd want. And sometimes it's a matter of working in different environments and just understanding where it is that you're at. Unfortunately for Michael, he was in a shop that was running off, like you said, KPIs.
Right.
The KPIs needed to be right. And his salary versus what he was producing got skewed. Most likely, that's probably what happened. It got skewed in that, hey, you need to be at a 70-30 split and you're at a 55-45 split or a 60-40 split. These numbers are not going to work. And what happens? You're expendable. I can bring somebody in to be a 75-25 split.
Yep.
What do you think I'm going to do? I run off the numbers. The numbers are king. So you need to walk in and ask, what motivates you? What are your goals for the business? Why are you trying to achieve them? If they throw out some arbitrary number, oh, we're going to hit 1.7 this year. Really? $1.7 million? Why are you trying to hit $1.7 million?
There you go. There you go.
Well, we did 1.5 last year. It's like, oh, that's great. Well, if you're not growing, you're dying. Okay,
Yep.
That doesn't mean top line revenue, though. Maybe you don't need to challenge the person. Don't challenge the person. You're trying to get a job. But my point is,
Yeah.
if that person answers back like that, you immediately know the type of shop that you're in. If you're not contributing to that 1.7, you're gone. You're gone. You're just a number. And there's nothing, if that's the way they want to run their business, let them run the business that way. But all I'm saying is be painfully aware of what situation you're in. Be aware of the situation that you're in. Everybody that gets fired and blindsided was not aware of the situation they were in. Or they were delusional about it. They have painted a picture in their mind that was not reality. You're not going to be blindsided if you start to see your production numbers downtrend and your salary trend up. Something is going to give.
That person also commented, though, and he said, this shop painted a picture of themselves as a good shop. Mm-hmm. And you know, we've talked about this with technicians too. This is a thing, right? Overselling oneself to get the job, and that's what we've all been taught to do, right? Like that's what we've all been. But you know, the shop is, especially right now with the technician shortage, the shop's in a position where they have to go out and try and really sell themselves to make sure they get that new hire. How do they avoid that, though? How do they, and is it through the questions? Is there a series of questions
100%.
you would ask?
Yeah, 100%. 100% you avoid the fluff. You are going to get sold a bill of goods. 100% you're going to be sold, and that's their job. The shop owner is there to sell the job to the prospect. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't begrudge the shop owner fluffing up everything.
Right.
But you as the employee, if you want to be in the right situation, need to ask the right questions. And yeah, some of those questions are, tell me about the goals of the business. Mm-hmm. Tell me, like, why did you start the business? Ask that first. Why did you start the business? Yeah. Because you're going to find that
man,
if
I
was,
want to make 20% and blah, 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 blah.
I was making the shop rate, the labor rate at the shop was $150 an hour, and I was getting paid $30. That's and I thought I should have a better spread than that. And so I decided to go out on my own. Or I got fired and I didn't know what else to do, so I went out on my own. There's nothing wrong with that per se. Yeah. But if there's no driving motivator to start the business, okay? And don't fall into like empty, vapid words like we strive to be the best automotive repair shop experience for our clients, and that's just BS. That's all that is BS. I wanted to give my customers a better repair experience. Like, what the hell does that even mean? Yeah. That doesn't mean anything. You want to get down to like the nitty gritty. You want to get to the core motivators for that person to open the business. Number one, ask them why they opened the business. If the person comes back with, I had retired from my engineering job and I was sitting on $700,000 in my 401k that was only returning me 4% because the market was down, and I thought I could buy this business to get a 10 to 15 to 25% return on my investment. I decided to buy it to cash in. Yeah, right? Understand? And there's nothing wrong with it. And you're. I don't want you to. I know that's what you're doing. I say I don't want you to look at it as right or wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Understand what you're walking into. You are walking into an investment that the minute you are no longer an asset, you are a liability.
And look, we have a really long-term listener, somebody who has listened to us for a long time, and he's the guy, if you remember, that they asked him to pay to move his toolbox, right? And it wasn't, but just a couple weeks ago, he finally sent the message, and he's like, "You guys were right, right? Like it was all about the money."
Yeah, red flag. Don't the red flag when the owner asks you to pay to move your own toolbox. That's because that's an expense, and they didn't factor that into the cost of recruitment. That's a whole different conversation. But if that's what they reply with, then you should know what situation you're walking into. I don't care how they fluff it up. I don't care how else they fluff it up. I've got the best benefits. I've got paid leave. I've got paid training. Blah, blah, blah. You've got your own toolboxes. I'm going to see this giant section of the shop, that's now yours, and I'm going to buy you a toolbox. All of that is just fluff. Understand
in this case, what came of that is that they told him about this great pay plan he was going to have. 90 days in, and this is a common strategy, 90 days in, they came back and said, "Hey, we're not seeing the production that we wanted to see. You've got X number of weeks, and if we don't see a turnaround in this, then I'm sorry, but you're going to go to straight flat rate."
Yeah, and that would have been a negotiation error on the technician's part, because whatever number they needed to hit, they needed to be crystal clear on what that number was. Mm-hmm. And if that number was getting hit,
a signed offer letter.
Yes. Well, it's not even that. Like, if they tried to come back and renege on that agreement, that hey, you needed to hit this many hours, and you're hitting the hours, but the numbers aren't quite working out for us. It's like, whoa. You came at me with that's not my fault. I'm hitting what you're asking me. Yeah, but we felt like you should be doing more. That's not what you told me. Mm-hmm. You said you were going to pay me X if I produce Y. I am producing Y. I'm expected to pay X. Now, if they come back like that's another red flag. It's time to go, because they're moving the goalpost. They set the goalpost. You crossed it. No, they've kicked it back, and they're going to keep kicking it back in perpetuity for forever. That's not going to stop.
You will never hit that bad boy.
You'll never hit it. So now, and I'm not saying this is a right or right answer to the motivation for starting the business. The other thing too is, what are your goals and why are they your goals? Mm-hmm. They may not have any goals. That's a red flag. That might be an issue. If they can't articulate their goals, then expect pure chaos, because the goal is whatever the shop owner feels like that day.
Yep.
Everybody has a goal. They may not be able to articulate it. And if they can't articulate it to you, the prospect, then expect that the goal may change tomorrow, and all of a sudden the shop owner doesn't want to have employees anymore, and you're
based on the emotion, based on the whatever
based on
it
emotion. Is. Yes. Yeah. Something pissed them off that morning, and guess what? You're fired. And you're like, well, what am I supposed to do? It's like, I don't know. I don't want you here anymore. Get the hell out.
Yep.
That's what happens when they don't have any goals. So what are the goals, and why are they the goals? So I come to possibly work for you, Lucas, and you tell me that, hey, my goal is to hit net 25. I'm going to ask why. Why net 25?
Yep.
Why not net 22? Why not net 18?
Yep.
What happens if you don't hit that net 25? Let's talk about that. Like, what happens if you don't hit your goals? What's that going to look like? And that net is based on after expenses, right? So what if I start eating into those expenses? Am I going to lose my job? Those are all pertinent questions. But you're going to have to walk into it understanding that I need to have a crystal clear picture of the situation I'm walking into. And here's the thing. Like, I don't care what these technicians keep saying. The technicians have all the power right now. right? Mm-hmm. They have the ability to walk into a situation and dictate their terms. Now, there's a catch to that, though, kiddies. There's a catch to that. And the catch is that like 98% of shops are shitbags. I shouldn't have said 98%. I should probably lower that number.
Okay.
Go ahead and
you
edit
can do
this
over,
out.
David.
Beep.
What actual percent?
I don't know what the percentage is. You're going to find it really hard if you're a certain type of personality. You're going to find it really hard to find a good shop where the shop owner cares about the employees.
Yeah.
That is rarely the case. Most of the time, the shop owner's trying to hit arbitrarily derived goals, revenue numbers, profit numbers. The shop owner just wants a boat. The shop owner just wants a new car. The shop owner
or
wants
the
that
shop
second
owner is
vacation
working
home,
in the shop.
or the shop owner is the business.
Yep. And then they have nothing. All they want to do is fix all the cars.
Nothing. They want to fix all the cars, and they'll work 100 hours, and they'll be stressed out like crazy. And so you need to be super aware and just understand. I'm painfully convinced. I am painfully convinced that we do not have and I'm saying painfully because it aches me. I'm convinced we do not have a technician shortage. We do not have a technician shortage in any way, shape, or form. We have an overabundance of crappy shops. That's what we have.
Yep.
An overabundance of crappy shops.
I agree with you.
And those shops need to go away. And the minute they go away, all of a sudden those job openings will dry up and we won't have a shortage any longer because the technicians will find happy homes.
Yep.
If you're looking for a happy home, understand what the home looks like before you go and buy it.
Yep.
And without asking those questions, you're going to walk into whatever it is that you're buying off of the perfectly manicured real estate photography. You can't do that. You have to send in the inspector. The inspector's going to find what's hidden behind the drywall. And they're going to find layers of wallpaper and a leaking pipe behind the drywall. And all of a sudden you're going to realize, oh, this is a crumbling house here. Not what I want to walk into. Yeah. But based off the real estate pictures, it looks nice. So you got to be really careful with that.
Agreed.
When you're no longer useful to them, check them out. Unfortunately, a lot of these shop owners have gone to that mentality. I mean, it's not new. Trust me, it's not new. But so many of these management groups, push profit as the most important thing. Even to the point, little side tangent. A lot of them push profit over even the health of the business. They're so worried about maximizing profit per car, they realize they don't care that they're pushing out long-established customers to the next shop because, their whole thing is advertise, pull in more new customers so you can get all the, first-timer, pop them for as much as you can and move on to the next new customer. And that's a huge problem.
I am so glad that of all the organizations we chose to work with the podcast is that we worked with the Institute, right? Because they just don't believe that way. They just don't think that way. They don't operate that way.
They don't believe that way. They don't teach that to their people. They do teach profit, though. You have to make money.
Course.
Like if I say, no, money's stupid, Cecil gets very angry at me.
I know, he really does.
You need to make money. But again, that's it looks that way. It looks that way to Michael, and I understand. I've said this before. I make 6 times more on a second or third visit than I do on the initial visit. My ARO for first-time customers is under $300, and I think it's $184 if I'm not mistaken. $184 I make on first-time visits, and I make something. I think it's almost $300. I make something like $1,200 on second-time visits on the same person. So my job is not to get as much on the first sale. All of my work is in establishing a situation that allows me to bring in a second and third time in. On the second and third time in, I will make all my money back on whatever I invested to get that customer.
Yep.
And then some. So I make my profit on the second and third visit. So yeah, I'm not going to take the approach of just get him in the door, get him out. But you may ask that. You may be a technician that asks that of the owner and say, hey, do you make more on the first visit or the second visit for customers? And that might tell you, well, we try to get as much as we can on the first time visit because we may never see him again. It's like, okay, well, that should tell you everything right there, right? They're only looking for first time visits.
Just find one thing. Just find one thing.
Just find one thing. Yeah, to sell them. And that's all.
Thing.
That's your focus. And again, you can want to work in those shops. There's nothing wrong with that. Good, bad, or different. It's just the way to run the business.
I was in a class a while back, and they said, look, don't tell the client about everything on their car when you do the DVI or when you do the evaluation. What you want to do is you want to tell them about one thing on that DVI, and you want to convince them to do that. And then once you get them in there, you can, because they can be waiting. We don't care. Take it on. We don't care how busy you are. You could have 50 cars lined up. Take that job on, pull somebody off of something and get them doing that oil change. Find one thing on that, and then we'll get him a ride home. And then we'll present everything else. Right? And I thought, man, like now you're disrupting your technician. You're disrupting your culture. You're disrupting everything that is your shop. You know, maybe the thing to do is do a working interview in a shop, right? And I'm a big proponent for that when hiring people. Do a working interview. Understand how the shop operates. Watch and see how people treat each other. You can tell if people are unhappy, right? But don't just go in there blindly and jump in and say, yeah, I'll take the job. You need to see how the facility operates. If that's something they're doing and their primary focus is find one thing, get the car in, get the car in, get the car in. Pull somebody off of, do the oil change just so we can say that we got in, and we'll get it. Don't worry. And they just keep stacking cars in. And look, my perspective's changed over the last couple of years because I got more bays to fill than I ever have, but I'm still not going to do that.
Whatever. You would if you could.
Nah.
No.
Too lazy for that. It's a lot of work.
That's my line. All right.
All right.
Hey, 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 hey.